Hello, and welcome to another installment of the Psychology of Better Call Saul, a series which attempts to understand the many psychological motivations of the characters in this television show. In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at the character of Jimmy McGill and his relation to his alter ego or persona, Saul Goodman. Although the name Saul Goodman doesn't come into effect until later in the series, one can argue that the persona or mask of Saul has been with Jimmy since the beginning of the show, and even in his childhood. As the seasons progress, Jimmy begins to identify more and more with this persona, as opposed to the actual person underneath. Over time, Jimmy's persona becomes the way for him to hide from painful life experiences while living within the shell of a human being. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, helped to make the term persona more accessible to the public by defining it and its role within the psychology of an individual. One way he defined the persona was as being a social mask, like the mask worn by actors within Greek tragedy. It is a mask that makes one appear as an individual to oneself and others, but in actuality, it is just a role that one is playing for the world. Although everyone needs a persona in order to function within society, if one relies too heavily on this mask, they begin to lose touch with their inner world or voice. They become shut off from ways that the inner processes are trying to speak to them and help them with different roadblocks or barriers they may be facing. One could say that this inner voice is a person's conscience. In a coming video, I will look more closely at the ways that Jimmy ignores his conscience or inner voice throughout the show. But in this video, I will focus more specifically on the construction and reliance on his persona. So let's get started. In Season 1, Episode 4, we see an early example of Jimmy building up his persona. He creates a scene in which he rescues someone who is taking down a billboard advertisement he had recently posted. He makes himself appear as a hero through orchestration, in which there are witnesses to make claims of his heroics. In addition, he has ensured a filming crew to be on hand so that the news will go public. Jimmy is often focusing on how he appears to those around him, with total disregard about the means to achieve this goal. Although he or the man could have been seriously hurt, he still went through with the stunt in order to boost his outer appearance. In Season 2, Episode 3, Jimmy is being berated by the head of Davis & Main, the law firm he is working for at the time. Jimmy is talking in front of Kim, making it appear as if the conversation is going well and there are no problems to be had. This is a trend that occurs throughout the show, in which Jimmy lies to Kim as a way to uphold an image of how he wants to appear to her. He lies to everyone, but his lies to Kim increase throughout the show the longer they are in a relationship. This is reminiscent of how Chuck described Jimmy's relations to his parents, and how his parents often believed he was someone he was not, primarily due to the stories he told to construct his image. In Season 2, Episode 10, Jimmy's commercial comes on the air while he is with Kim. Kim looks extremely proud of Jimmy and expresses how she feels about his accomplishment. The commercial is all about his persona, in which the actors speak about Jimmy and how he is a great person who is always honest, someone to rely on. Kim does not know any better, and in a way, she has been choosing to ignore what she knows about Jimmy's real personality. Jimmy's face, on the other hand, provides the reality of the situation, which is that the commercial could not be any further from the truth. It represents the complete opposite of his real-life actions. Following this commercial, another advertisement appears for a product called Weasel, a juxtaposition which reinforces the reality of Jimmy's intentions. In Season 3, Episode 6, Jimmy releases another commercial, this time more in line with the Saul of later seasons. This is essentially the genesis of Saul Goodman, presenting a persona that matches the style of the commercial. It's cheap, gimmicky, thrifty, and slapstick. It's nothing like the real Jimmy McGill, the one who took care of Chuck for extended periods of time, the one who cried hardest when his mother died, the one who did the right thing for the seniors at Sandpiper. This commercial presents something completely devoid and detached from the person he actually is. It is a fabrication of reality. Jimmy has become solely focused on the objects of the world. He is beginning to favor money, and that which comes along with money, over everything else, especially his inner voice. The persona is thus a functional complex that comes into existence for reasons of adaptation of personal convenience, but is by no means identical with the individuality. The persona is exclusively concerned with the relation to objects. In Season 3, Episode 10, Jimmy goes to Chuck's house in an attempt to bridge the gap in their relationship. This is one of the few times in the show in which Jimmy is trying to be authentic with another person. He is being as honest as he can by being emotionally vulnerable with the person he cares most about in life. The problem is that Chuck has had enough and is verbally dismantling Jimmy. At the end of the conversation, he says,
I don't want to hurt your feelings. But the truth is, you've never mattered all that much to me.
This hits Jimmy in a brutal way. Jimmy has lowered his persona in an attempt at real human connection, and in turn he is shot down and made to feel as if this was the worst decision he could have made. His actions in the following season, in which he is completely devoid of feelings towards Chuck, are a repercussion from this scene. We also start to see the ways in which the persona takes a bigger role as a compensation for Jimmy's hurt feelings. In Season 4, Episode 9, Jimmy is at his bar hearing. Earlier in the season, he had been attending different interviews, including at the copier company, in which he walked out after being offered the job, seemingly trying on different personas or masks in the process. It's almost as if he was practicing for his upcoming bar hearing through these interviews. He is spending an inordinate amount of time and energy directed towards his outer image, while failing to pay attention to the person underneath. When the bar hearing concludes, he is told that he didn't get it because he seemed insincere, and he reacts with rage and hubris. He is so detached from his real self at this point, something which has become exacerbated by Chuck's death, that Jimmy does not realize how he is presenting to other people. He does not realize that the majority of who he is has become the persona, which is a complete unreality. Fundamentally, the persona is nothing real. It is a compromise between individual and society as to what a man should appear to be. He takes a name, earns a title, exercises a function, he is this or that. In a certain sense, all this is real. Yet, it is only a secondary reality, a compromise formation, making which others often have a greater share than he. The persona is a semblance, a two-dimensional reality. In the final episode of Season 4, we begin to see the ways that the emergence of the persona is creating a darker side to Jimmy's personality. In his bar rehearing, he uses the letter Chuck wrote to him as a manipulation tactic in order to help him win his law license back. He begins reading from the letter and then creates a false narrative about his relationship with Chuck to win the sympathy vote. This is following the staging of a dedication to Chuck, which was also used to help his case. After the rehearing, he begins to gloat excessively and talk about how stupid the people at the hearing were.
Yeah, did you see those suckers? That one asshole was crying. He had actual tears. Jesus, Kim. Listen, I started reading the letter, and I just knew it wasn't, I could tell by their faces, it wasn't going to be enough, right? So I just went off on this flow, you know. I had this energy going through me. It was like improv or jazz, and then, boom, I sunk the hook in.
It is clear that he doesn't care about his actions or the moral implications involved, as long as he gets what he wants. He then proceeds to change his law name to Saul Goodman. The persona is now taking over many parts of Jimmy's life. Kim is shocked by this conversation and its outcome, mainly due to seeing how dark Jimmy has become within a short matter of time. When the persona dominates, the shadow side of an individual begins to rear its ugly head. The ego confuses itself with the facade personality, which is of course in reality only that part of the personality that is tailored to fit the collective, and forgets that it possesses aspects which run counter to the persona. This means that the ego has repressed the shadow side and lost touch with the dark contents, which are negative and for this reason split off from the conscious sector. The end of Season 4 and entering Season 5 seems to be the primary turning point in terms of the persona being assimilated to all aspects of Jimmy's life. This is when he starts practicing law as Saul Goodman, starts changing his dress attire, and practices the law with no real moral basis. In Season 5, Episode 1, Jimmy is talking to Kim about his business and how he's going to start becoming more involved with the seedy criminal underground. Kim questions why he is making these decisions instead of shooting for something higher. Jimmy responds by saying,
Kim, I can't go back to being Jimmy McGill. Jimmy McGill, the lawyer, is always going to be Chuck McGill's loser brother. I'm done with that. That name is burned.
What he means is that he can't allow himself to go back to the feelings, emotions, and thoughts that were associated with Jimmy McGill, the person he truly is. He needs to disconnect as much as possible from the past experiences of his inner world, particularly the death of Chuck. As he begins to detach from his own feelings and self, he begins to treat others, including the clients he works for, with little to no sympathy or empathy. In Season 5, Episode 4, Jimmy is meeting with Howard for lunch, as Howard is interested in hiring Jimmy with HHM. Howard understands that Jimmy is being called Saul now, and he is intrigued. Howard says,
Well, what I mean is, if he's not Jimmy McGill, who is he? What's he about?
Jimmy responds,
Saul Goodman is, he's the last line of defense for the little guy. Are you getting sold down the river? He's a life raft. Are you getting stepped on? He's a sharp stick. You got Goliath on your back. Saul's the guy with the slingshot. He's a righter of wrongs. He's a friend to the friendless.
Without realizing it, Jimmy is explaining that Saul, his persona, is the only way for Jimmy to survive in the world. Jimmy sees himself as the little guy, as the one being stepped on, as a person without a friend. Technically, Chuck was his only friend, and now he is gone. Jimmy is unconsciously admitting that he sees himself as emotionally helpless at this point of his life, and so the persona of Saul is meant as the way to protect the hurt he is feeling inside. As Season 5 progresses, we see how brittle Jimmy's personality is, due to the reliance on the persona. In Season 5, Episode 7, when Howard tries to confront him about the pranks Jimmy has pulled, Jimmy becomes indignant. He not only denies what he has done, but he lashes out at Howard in an extreme and over-the-top way. The inference by Howard about who Jimmy is underneath, the reality of what he has done, sets Jimmy off. He is unable to deal with being presented what's actually going on in his life. Someone noticing the hurt he is experiencing, as Howard notices here, is something which his ego can't tolerate. Someone has seen through the persona, and he must defend himself.
You're a teensy tiny man in a teensy weensy little bubble.
Oh, Jimmy.
Oh, don't you fucking owe Jimmy me. You look down on me, you pity me. Walk away. That's right, Howard. You know why I didn't take the job? Because it's too small. I don't care about it. It's nothing to me. It's a bacterium. I travel in worlds you can't even imagine. You can't conceive of what I'm capable of.
He ends up comparing himself to a god with the ability to shoot thunderbolts. Howard walks away, and Jimmy is left standing by himself, not even sure what has just happened. Outside, he presents as having everything all together, but inside, he is feeble and unpredictable, with that inferiority breaking to the surface in this scene. The persona is characterized by a lack of relatedness, at times even a blind inconsiderateness, that yields only to the harshest blows of fate. Not infrequently, it is just these people with a rigid persona possess an attitude to the unconscious processes which is extremely susceptible and open to influence. Inwardly, they are weak, malleable, and soft-centered, as they are inflexible and unapproachable outwardly. Their inner attitude, therefore, corresponds to a personality that is diametrically opposed to the outer personality. Please stay tuned for more videos about Jimmy and his psychological changes throughout the show, including an episode about the role of conscience in the character's motivations. This concludes this installment from the series on Better Call Saul. Please watch my other videos regarding other characters if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching.